My name is Christina, I'm 29 years old, and I never thought I'd find myself wondering if my own husband was trying to poison me. But there I was, sitting in the sunlit dining room of my sister-in-law Nina's stylish home in Nashville, where we gathered monthly for family brunch, staring at a coffee mug that gave off an unsettling, almost metallic odor. My husband, James, placed it in front of me with a grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Don't you want to try the coffee I brewed just for you, sweetheart?" he asked. Something didn't feel right. That strange smell stirred memories, specifically of last month when I landed in urgent care after drinking tea at Nina's. The doctors couldn't find a cause. Nina claimed she prepared it exactly as usual, but somehow I always got sick around her, always when she was smiling sweetly. So did James, and that same fake cheeriness sat on his face now. Feigning a smile, I replied, "How thoughtful," while my mind raced. Nina, lounging across from me, casually stirred her untouched coffee. "James has been experimenting with different brewing styles for you," she said, emphasizing the last words with a smirk. That was when the knot in my stomach tightened. James had been spending more and more time at Nina's lately, claiming they were planning something special for our anniversary. But his secrecy, the cryptic texts I glimpsed, and now this suspicious cup of coffee, everything pointed to something far more sinister. I brought the mug to my lips but didn't drink. Instead, I pretended to check my phone and stood up quickly. "I need to take a quick work call. Mind if I use your study, Nina?" As I passed her, I faked a clumsy stumble, swapping our mugs in the process. "I'm so sorry, I'm such a klutz," I said, trying to hide my racing heart. Nina waved it off with a tight smile. "Just don't break anything," she replied, clearly annoyed. From the doorway of the study, I watched. Nina took a sip from the mug meant for me. For a moment, nothing happened, but then, I saw it, a flicker in her expression. Her hand trembled, her face went pale. "James," she whispered, her voice cracking, "something's not right." His eyes darted toward her, widening in horror. That wasn't supposed to be your cup," he muttered, knocking over his chair as he stood. I stepped back into the room, phone already recording. "What did you put in that coffee, James?" I demanded. Nina was shaking violently. "Call an ambulance," she gasped. "Please, I can't." I dialed 911 with steady hands. James dropped to his knees beside Nina, panic etched across his face. "What's happening? This wasn't supposed to happen like this. You said it would just make her sick," Nina hissed through clenched teeth. "You promised." That's when the truth came pouring out. They weren't trying to kill me, not at first. They just wanted to sabotage me. I was set to pitch a major client next week, the same one Nina had been courting for months. She wanted to make me look unreliable. James had convinced her they could slow me down, but this time, he'd gone too far. I stepped closer. "So the tea last month, the breakfast 2 months ago, those weren't accidents either?" Nina groaned, clutching her stomach. "You went to the Johnson presentation anyway. James said we needed to discredit you." The paramedics arrived and rushed her away on a stretcher. I emailed the recording to my lawyer. James stood frozen. "I'll go with her," I told them. "I need to make sure my sister-in-law gets the proper care, and I'm sure the doctors will want to know what was in that coffee." At the hospital, Nina stabilized. A nurse led me to a doctor who looked grim. "We found toxins in her blood. The levels were high. This wasn't accidental." I played the recording. The doctor's eyes darkened. "We'll notify the authorities immediately." James arrived moments later, sweaty and pale. "Let me explain," he began. "Stay where you are," the doctor ordered. Security was called. I showed them text messages I'd backed up, James and Nina plotting how to take me out of commission before the Henderson presentation. "After finding strange pills in your drawer, I started documenting everything," I told the doctor. "I've been hospitalized 3 times in 6 months. I want to know if what's in her system matches what I had." She nodded. "We'll compare results. Security will make sure your husband remains here." Nina, now conscious, muttered, "We just needed her to stop taking all the clients. You said it would be a mild dose." Dr. Phillips, the physician, shook her head. This dose was not mild. Had Christina drunk that coffee, the results could have been fatal. Detectives were called. Evidence poured in, texts, recordings, bottles of substances from James's desk at work. One clip even had Nina saying, "This account is worth millions. A few days of illness is worth it." The detective asked me if I was ready to make a formal statement. "Yes," I said. "Let's begin." The trial lasted 3 grueling weeks. Every day, I sat in court, listening as the prosecution revealed the full scope of James and Nina's plan. They had documented my symptoms like lab rats' record data. The pharmaceutical compounds had been stolen through a friend of James's working in drug development. Both were convicted of attempted murder and conspiracy. 1 year later, I delivered the keynote at a Nashville business conference. The irony wasn't lost on me. This was the moment they tried to steal from me. "The biggest threats often come from those closest to us," I told the audience, "but surviving them makes us stronger." That evening, the Henderson client renewed their contract for another 3 years. I didn't read the article about James and Nina's prison sentences. I didn't need to. Success was my answer, and I brewed my own coffee from then on.